Thanks, guys, for coming back and taking another listen. Today we got a very special guest, John Mopper. And John is a psychotherapist for children, which is always needed, especially this day and age in America. John, tell us about yourself.
Sure. So yeah, I'm a licensed psychotherapist and one of the owners, along with my lovely wife, Michelle, of Blueprint Mental Health in Somerville, New Jersey. I do, these days, not so much for me, children. I have a couple smaller guys, but I do these days, a lot more teens and young adults is who I see. And our practice is a team of now 13 clinicians. Wow. All with different specialties and different niches. So we treat from like age 5 up into what we call adulting adults. Right? So we have your young adults, which are your, maybe kids in college or kids college aged, up until these days, young adult, I'd say goes up to like 30, and then adulting adults are, I'd like to, I kind of an adulting adult, I guess, where, you have maybe a family and a career and you're trying to balance those things. Yes. But yeah, practices in Somerville, the 13 clinicians, but also our 2 pups. So Toby and Charlie come to the office with us every day.
I do enjoy those posts with them.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. The posts with the dogs get the most amount of attention. Really? We could spit some hot fire about like psychotherapy and tips and whatnot, and they get some traction. But post a picture of the dog, man, and
everyone loves the dog. Everyone loves the dog.
So we exploit them as much as possible. Yeah, they're okay with it though.
Yeah, I imagine. So John, how did you get into this line of work?
Oh man, it's a long story, but I'll shorten it a little bit. Yeah, right? I'll try to keep it kind of balanced. So I was what you would consider a failure to launch case. Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie with Matthew McConaughey where he lives at home with his parents. He's like a full-on adult, and the parents are trying to get him out of the house. Okay. Right? Yeah. That was me, man. I went. I'm a hometown guy, so I went to Bridgewater Variant High School. Finished high school. I went to Rutgers. I had a lot of fun at Rutgers. Tons of fun. Okay. And I learned a little bit. Like I literally, my senior year, I'm looking at my transcript to be like, all right, dude, you got to declare a major somewhere, like where do you have enough credits? And it ended up being something like American Studies. Okay. Which is like the study of American culture throughout history. I'd be interested in now, but at that point I was like, I just need to finish this thing up. Yeah. Right. So then my 20s were crazy, lots of obstacles throughout those years, a lot of different crazy jobs. I sold Craftmatic adjustable beds door to door, where you had to like go to folks' homes and give like a 2.5-hour presentation on this bed and try to sell it for like $10,000. I managed health clubs for like LA Fitness. I was the general manager for LA Fitness, and I've opened up a few of their locations. And then I landed working in the music industry actually for a little bit as an entertainment publicist and entertainment manager. That was like basically, I was like 25 years old and I'm like, I need to do something. Like so I remember looking up all of like the list of different PR companies in New York City. And I remember sending this like generic email and be like, hey, I know I don't have any experience, but I'm a hard worker. If you just give me a shot. So I got a couple of bites, So for like about 5 years, I was running around New York City, putting on different shows for different bands and stuff like that. But it wasn't going to be a career. Like I was barely like getting paid, what I'm saying? In that industry, it's like my boss would literally be like, so do you think you deserve to get paid this week? Like I've had things thrown at me. I've like, it was everything you see on TV, So at 30, I moved back home. And I'm like, man, I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, and my mom was a therapist. All my friends were always going to me for advice and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll do this. Yeah. And so went back to school at the age of 30. I took 2 undergraduate psych courses just to get my feet wet. And then I went into a graduate program for clinical mental health counseling. And it was during that time that I became passionate about the work that I do. You know, like that it was a path I needed to take to get to that place. And, you know, I can honestly say that, you know, there was a time, like I said, I had these obstacles, and if you want to go into it later, we definitely can, in my 20s. And there was a time where even at 30, I would be judging myself for the person I was in my 20s and the mistakes that I made in my 20s, and I'd be embarrassed by it, and I try to keep it secret. And I'm like, okay, I'm a professional person now. Like, I don't want anyone to know. And I would put on the buttoned out shirt and the jacket and everything, and, you know, be all professional. But now, at 44 years old, I look back at that time period where I had all those obstacles with gratitude, you know, because like, if I didn't go through what I went through, this wouldn't be my life right now, you know, and I love my life right now. Like, I literally wouldn't trade it with anybody's, you know, and my life might have been fine, but it wouldn't be this life, you know? So it took me going through that to get to this place. And then, you know, I worked in the field. I met my wife working in the field, and then we started Blueprint in 2016.
Wow. So going back into your 20s, what was the most famous band or singer you've had to work with?
Oh man, Daryl from Run DMC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we had this band we were working with called the Dirty Pearls. Okay, and they were like kind of like an 80s rock, almost hair metal, kind of like, you know, they leather, and like they were like from, you know, Bowery in New York City, and it was that kind of scene was actually going on there. And like, actually that's where actually Lady Gaga came from. Like, she came from that rock scene, you know, on the Bowery in New York. But we were working with them, and we got Daryl to come and do Walk This Way. And we did a live radio performance. So I met him, Stevie Van Zandt. I went bowling with Stevie Van Zandt.
Wow.
You know, that was cool. I've never been a huge Springsteen fan, but I'm a huge fan of Silvio and Sopranos. You know, like, that's my favorite character by far, and like in my favorite series I've ever seen. So some cool people.
It's funny, I was just thinking about starting The Sopranos, because I've never watched.
Oh my God, bro.
Yeah.
It's the best series ever on TV.
Really?
Yes.
You've seen Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad? Yeah.
Sopranos, man.
Okay.
That's at least for me, right?
All right. Well, hey, if you're born and bred in Jersey.
Right.
It hits to the heart, yeah.
It does. And, you know, it's funny because, like, you know, Tony Soprano it's kind of, you know, he's bordering on a sociopath in the show, right? And a sociopath is someone who, like, you could be a sociopath but not be a psychopath. Right?
Okay.
But he's a sociopath, and the sociopath's the guy that, like, can walk into the bank, smile and flirt with the tellers, and walk out with all the money. They're usually very charismatic, you know. But at the same time, he's like, you know, he's a violent guy in that show, but you find yourself rooting for him.
Okay.
You know, you want him to win. It's a great show, and so a lot of it's about him working with a therapist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's always good. Well, they had a movie with, what's his name? Robert De Niro.
Oh,
Analyze Me. Or Analyze This.
Analyze This, and then there was a sequel to it.
Yeah. Analyze That.
Yeah. That's right. I like that movie.
Yeah.
It's cute.
I thought it was hilarious.
No.
And equally as violent. Yeah. But yeah, after you just defined sociopath, I'm just rethinking everything that I do now. I'm like, wow, I can relate to that.
Well, you know, you can be charismatic without having evil intentions behind them. You know?
That's true.
Like,
that is true.
That sociopath doesn't actually, like, they don't experience emotions, right? Like, shame or guilt, right? But what's cool about it is that they learn what kinds of situations should produce shame, guilt, remorse, and they learn then how to mimic what that emotion looks like.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Crap.
Yeah.
I got to think about this later. How'd you meet your wife, John?
Michelle. Yeah, Michelle, and I say this a lot.
And I've met her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She's great.
She is. That's why I married her, for sure. Actually, when I was getting my tattoo, I got like a little M on my ring finger.
Oh, yeah.
There, you know.
Nice.
just so that when I'm at the gym, let chicks leave me alone.
That's right. No matter what, you're branded. You're branded right away. Yeah, you're taken.
We joke that if she ever leaves, I could be like, yeah, it's for mom.
A married mom for life. Yeah.
That's right. So while I was going to grad school, I started working at what's considered a higher level of care. Okay, so you have what I do, which is an outpatient counselor, right? So people come to us once a week for usually individual counseling, you know, then they come back the following week, or like we do some parent coaching. Sometimes we have just parents that we work with.
That's really good.
So the parents will come in and be like, hey, this is what we got going on with our kid. And we provide them feedback on how to offer them the most amount of support and like what to do, you know, and we could talk about more of that too. But the next level of care up from what I do, which is just once a week, is in what's considered an intensive outpatient program. Okay. So now kids are coming 3 days a week after school. You know, they're doing a mixture of group and individual therapy. And then a step up from that is what's considered partial hospitalization. So the kids are coming 5 days a week in lieu of school because they're maybe not able to function in school at that point where they're at.
Yeah.
So I worked for one of those programs. And my wife, when I was there, I started as a tech. So I wasn't licensed yet. I was a mental health technician. And my wife started as a therapist. And throughout the time we were there, we both kind of grew where I moved like up to be a therapist. And then I worked on like business development side of things. And she became the program director for the adolescent program.
Whoa.
And we met there. So we went from just like being, you know, colleagues to work friends to then, you know, a little bit more than work friends.
So what sparked the idea of opening Blueprint together?
I knew from the time I went to grad school that my end goal was going to be to start an outpatient practice, right? I knew that that's what I wanted to do eventually. So what happens is like once you get licensed, you're a licensed associate counselor, at which point you have to work for somebody else for 3 years, 3,500 hours of supervision. Wow. Once you do your 3,500 hours of supervision, you become an LPC, licensed professional counselor. At that point, you're able to just work for yourself and start your own practice. So I always knew from the time I went to grad school, that was going to be the end goal because I'm passionate about my clinical work, but man, I love being an entrepreneur and growing a business, you know, and coming up with different ideas, you know. So what happened was I left before Michelle did. I started my own outpatient practice under Blueprint. Yeah. And my first space was I rented a walk-in closet in a building.
Okay.
That literally had like this much room, dude. So like this was the room. Yeah. And this is how close we had to sit, you know. And then from there, I worked into like a little bit bigger office. Michelle started her outpatient practice in the same building as me, renting an office, and her practice was called True Triumph Counseling. Okay. And then we knew that the plan was going to be to merge the practices together. Okay. So we merged the practices together in 2018 when we bought our building in Somerville. Yeah. And we started then in 2018. But we had this vision from the get-go of what Blueprint was going to be. That first and foremost, it was going to be about offering the highest quality of clinical care that you can, right? Because a lot of these practices out here, I hate to say this, man, you know, you either have individual clinicians that are good clinicians working by themselves, like how I started, which is fine, but you're also, you know, it could get kind of lonely. You don't have so many folks to bounce ideas off of, right? Right. Or you have these like big group practices that are just like money-making machines that they don't give a shit about the clients. You know, they're just pumping through as many appointments as they possibly can. You know, they're trying to whack everyone's insurance as hard as they can. So we want it to be something in the middle where we have a comprehensive team of clinicians and we meet weekly for clinical rounds. We bounce ideas off of each other. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, really focus on that super high quality care. We also were really focused on what is our space at 73 West End, what's it going to present like? Yeah. I mean, down to like, when you come into our building, man, you know, it's like, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. Like you're walking into a wonderland, like all different crazy artwork and everything's lit by Christmas lights and the dogs are there. And, you know, so it was down to like, what does it look like? what does it smell like, right? Like, okay, what kind of oils are we putting in the diffuser? What music is playing while you're there? Like, we wanted to create an entire experience for the folks that were coming. Yeah,
That's important.
yeah.
First impressions. Talking about smell, one thing, I told you this before. When you started coming in weekly, I think this was post-COVID,
Yeah.
I would always notice your musk. Yeah. And I still can't find it to this day.
Oh man.
I'm trying to look for it.
So I mix it up. I call it like my hippie stink.
Yeah.
It's like it's an odor. You know what I'm saying? Like it's distinct. Like literally this stuff. Like I'll take a shower and not put it on the next day, and somebody's like, "What is that?" It's like almost like built into my skin now.
Yeah.
So I go back and forth. And this is top secret information. I almost feel like I don't want everyone out there like wearing this shit now, you know? Because I'll tell you, I get stopped in the street by people actually.
Really?
And it's not some expensive cologne or anything like that. It's either patchouli oil,
Okay.
right? Or it's Egyptian musk oil. Or sometimes both of them together, you know?
I'll look that up.
Yeah, it's a very comforting smell for me.
Yeah. I mean,
Feels good.
smell, as you know, it like enhances the nostalgic thoughts.
Oh, more than
People in
anything
the
else.
past, yeah.
More than any other sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I just, even when I smell rain coming,
Ooh.
that's like, it brings me back to my childhood.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Because we grew up in the woods, and those were good times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it is. It's usually smell. And there's a reason for that. I don't want to it has something to do with the part of the brain that's associated with smell, why it's a smell that triggers the most nostalgia, you know, like just brings it back. Like, excuse me. I remember I used to go to New Mexico every summer to visit my family. My whole family lived in New Mexico on this plot of land in the desert. And my grandmother and my Aunt Mickey and my Uncle Lou would pick me up from the airport. And my Aunt Mickey always had this certain perfume on, and she always had like a roll of certs in her purse. And the combination of those smells, like I could be back there in a second, you know, if I smell anything like it.
Yeah, it's just like when I smell cigarettes, I just think of my dad.
Yeah.
He would just always be smoking a cigarette. I'd smell it on him too, this and that. But now, my daughter, she kind of like has a smell for nostalgia. Whenever I make coffee, she's like, "Can I smell your coffee?" I was like, "Okay, sure." And she's like,
That's awesome.
I was like, "You're never drinking this." She's like, "I know." And I asked her one day, I was like, "Why do you like smelling the coffee?" She's like, "I don't know why, but it only because when you have it, I like to smell it." So, fun fact, when I was homeless with my daughter and my wife, I would always just have enough money to get coffee, right? Because all the rest of the money would go for her food and everything like that. So I just be drinking coffee 24/7. So I think when she was like 9 months old till like she was like a year and a half, she would smell coffee around me, register it, and then now she's just obsessed with the smell only. So
I had no idea you were homeless.
oh yeah, John, it's this was 2018, end of 2017. Long story short, I was working for my father, and we had a partner which I didn't agree with, and he was coming in for the second time.
Okay.
He just had more money, and my dad says, "Yeah, sure." And basically the plan was put my son there to work with the partner, and I don't work. And my son will still get a paycheck, and the partner gets a paycheck plus profit. I didn't agree with that, only because I've been there 60, 70 hours a week, and I thought I should be getting something in return.
Right.
And I don't want to listen to this partner guy. Like, who's he to tell me what to do?
Yeah, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, he's basically trying to buy his way into telling me what to do. And I didn't like that. So my brother and I, at the time, we left for 2 weeks. The partner stayed, and after 2 weeks of the trial run, my dad said no. So the guy left, and then my brother and I came back in. But then my father was thinking, and this is the first time I'm like telling anyone openly about this, but then my father says, "Okay, now that you're working here, I need you to pay me rent," because we were living all together at the time.
Sure.
He's like, "I need you to pay me rent now, and I need you to sign over the house that I gifted you." Now his plan was with my mom was to get 3 houses and put it in me and my siblings' names. That way, when we have a family and kids, we don't have to at least worry where we're living.
Sure.
So we already had one townhouse that was paid for, and we were living in another one that was mortgaged. So I said, how's that fair? And then my sister had one too, down the street. So I said, how's that fair? Everyone has theirs, and then you're asking me for this one because it was paid off. And he would want to either rent it or sell it and pocket the money that he couldn't make from the partnership.
Sure.
So I said, let me find a place to move out first. And then, this is my time frame. And he said, okay. And then the next day he changed his mind and says, no, you have to give it to me now. And over time, it got to a point within like 1 month where he basically kicked me out from the restaurant and also told me to get all my stuff from the house too. And my daughter was with me too at the time. She was like 8 months. And so I was just like, okay, you know, if you were thinking about this for 1 month and you said it, then you said it, right? There's no going back. So we got my stuff and basically didn't know where to go until my sister at the time was married to my brother-in-law. So they were down the street and they said, you can live with us for now. So we lived there for like a month. My wife, thank God, still had a job. She didn't want to get me upset or get involved. She just said, I'll just go wherever you go, right? So long story short, I was just thinking, like, what should I do? And I reached out to everyone that offered me a job when I was working at my father's restaurant, who said, oh, you're great at, you know, what you do. If you want to work for us, let us know. I applied at Verizon. I spoke with some friends, and they just gave me the runaround. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I could give it to you now. Spoke with Lifetime. They gave me the same thing. Oh, it's another company that hires. We can't do anything about it. And I was bummed out. I was getting ready to start working at a gas station, at least 12-hour shifts to make some kind of money after my unemployment ran out. And then one day I was just sitting down and just like, wait a minute. I'm good at doing something, so why don't I just do that? And I was always good at running businesses, restaurants, and everything like that. So then this specific spot, as you know, growing up here, has a high turnover rate. It's been several restaurants in the last 15 years. Okay. So I saw there was a for rent or for lease sale sign here. So I reached out to a friend. She reached out to the landlord. He was a nice little Italian guy, right? Like really old guy. We looked at the spot. It had everything we needed, and it had a hood, which saved us like $30,000. I said, hey, can you do it for this price? And he's like, yeah, sure. I'll bring the paper tomorrow. So I spoke with my brother-in-laws, and they both wanted to be in on this too. Mm-hmm. And we were all living together, same place too. And I just thought it made sense because one of my brother-in-laws at the time, who was married to my sister, is also a chef, and he didn't have a job really at that time. And the other one, even though he had a full-time job, would finance the whole thing. I mean, we had investors because they knew that I wasn't working there, so they thought I would start my own restaurant, which they were right. But in the end, we realized we can just do this ourselves. We didn't need to have anyone else in the game.
Keep it in the family.
Exactly. So 6-7 years later, here we are. You know, #1 whole restaurant in the U.S., second restaurant in Basking Ridge. Now I'm opening up a chai shop in New Brunswick. I've amended everything with my father, and I've also given him back the house because the one thing that I remembered and realized is that, like, we only have one life, right? So I never met my grandfathers because they passed away. My grandmother, God bless her soul, was alive until I was like 10 years old. Then she passed away. And, you know, you kind of like get like a hole in your heart, you know, for like older people, grandparents. So I figured at least my kids can at least have that love and grow up with them. And my parents, they needed their grandkids too. So, but here we are. I mean, like, I swallow my pride, even though, you know, things were said. I just said, you know what? I'll take the high road, and I'll give this $400,000 safety net kind of thing back to my parents, so that way they can be happy. And my dad was totally stunned when the lawyer called him. He's like, are you sure you got the right house? And he's like, yeah, your son came this morning and signed. The lawyer told me that. So I just wanted to show them that, like we all want to show our parents that like they raised someone as good as them or is better, you know? So here we are.
So looking back at that now,
Yeah.
right? Like, and being in the place that you're at, okay, I could tell this story and I'm saying this is what I went through, and, you know, and at the same time, man, I think about like being in that position at that time.
It's scary.
Of like, to the point where I'm, you know, I have children and I can't find anything, and I'm considering working at a gas station, you know? Like, were you, I mean, was that, I mean, I would assume like really difficult at that time. Were you able to manage at that point a positive outlook and manage hope, or like?
So it's good you asked that question. Some days I would wake up and I just stare at the ceiling. And I'm like, what should I do today? Where should I go? Who should I talk to? Because, you know, you can sleep in and stuff like that, and then you realize like half the day is already wasted. And I'm not built like that. I have to take advantage of the day. And then once I get my thoughts straight, my daughter wakes up. So then, you know, when you have a kid and they're sleeping in the same bed as you, you just turn into a machine right away. You know, you change them, you feed them, you play with them, you burp them, and then you get them ready, and then you go out into the world. So it was, for me, I wasn't scared at all, you know, because one thing led to another. If these people who were really high up in these businesses couldn't even offer me a job, I wasn't thinking what's wrong with me. I'm just thinking something's wrong with the world. I'm just going to go back at it again and then see what happens. Right. You know, don't expect anything. If you don't expect anything, you can't be let down. So I wasn't expecting anything from anyone. I was just expecting maybe like, we'll call you maybe in a month or two, which they said they would. But in the end, it was tough. As long as you keep like a positive attitude, especially for your kids, moving forward in life, showing them that everything's going to be okay. You just got to keep working hard and thinking things through, and it'll happen. I mean, my daughter was young. She was like 9, 10 months. But kids can tell at that age, like if you're upset, stressed.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they're watching you, right? And they're learning. Like, it's amazing. Like, you know, there's things that I used to hate that my dad would do growing up, right? And now I find myself doing the same thing. You know, like even the stuff that I didn't like, how much we mimic our parents.
Yeah.
You know,
we are a spitting image of our parents. You know, how I like to think about it, right, John, is like we create and get to the highest part of our life, like as a ceiling, and then we plop our kids on top of that ceiling to go higher, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, because, you know, it triggered something for me. Like you said, you know, we want to get to a place of like the same or advance from our parents, you know. I remember being in a space of, man, like, I don't want to get to a place of like specifically my mom, like passing away without knowing that I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know, because like I put her through tons of worry, man. You know, my mother would be up sleepless nights because of how I was living my life in my 20s, you know, and remember getting to a place of like, man, I just want her, I don't want her to worry about me, you know. And it wasn't even about like, see me advancing. I just don't worry, you know. And so to be in that place now where she's, you know, she could take a breath, and now I could try to take care of her a little bit if she lets me, you know what I'm saying? She's resistant to that. And
yeah, parents are usually like that. Yeah. You know, unless it's help with an iPhone, right? they're like, I know I raised you. You don't need to raise me.
Right.
They always use those kinds of excuses. But yeah, John, it's just, you know, I think the main reason why I resonated with you with your first takeout order was because I can tell right away, like, you have a happy-go-lucky attitude, positive. If it doesn't work out, then let's try again a different way, you know? That's why, segue into story mode, but that's why your wife called for a takeout one August night. And we thought it was just going to be like a light rain kind of thing, and then it just got worse and worse.
So can I tell this story?
Actually, yes. You start off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to turn around a little bit for this because I want to talk about how good of a dude this guy is right here. Okay. So I had ordered from here a few times, right? And all I knew of Moose was from our interactions here, the 5 minutes of waiting for the food and chatting a little bit, like that was pretty much it, And so I guess it was an August night. I was out in Flemington, and we got all these like alerts going off on our phones that it's like a flood warning, right? But it used to happen all the time. I'm like, okay, it's gonna rain a lot.
Yeah.
Like, what's the big deal, So it turned out it was a big deal. And I left this class I was taking in Flemington at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And at this point, the flooding was unbelievable. And I tried to go one way that I normally would go home, and it's River Road. So that wasn't going to happen, So then I turned around and tried to go another way, and that didn't work. And there was major flooding all over the place. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a main road, right? That's probably better off that way. And so I take this main road 31, and I get to the bottom of a hill, and there's a big puddle, right? And I pull over, and at the time I'm driving like this little sports car that's like super low to the ground. So I pull over, and honestly, I'm like, let me watch some other people go through first. Like,
Good idea. Yeah.
you guys go ahead, and then I'll kind of figure it out, right? So I watch, and I see people with like fairly lower cars, like going through the puddle. I'm like, all right, because I'm going through the puddle then. And so I go, and I get halfway through this puddle, and the car just goes and turns off, and all these warning signs go on. And now the water starts rising, right? And I'm sitting in this car, and I'm like, John, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to be that guy that's like on the news getting rescued from the roof of your car and stuff like that? I'm like, do I press the SOS button? Like, what do I do? And I'm sitting there trying to figure this out as the water's rising. And this off-duty cop like kind of made the decision for me. He pulled up next to me, right, with a big SUV, and he's like, get out of your car now. And I'm like, you sure? He's like, get out of the car now, get right in here. So I climb up, and I climb right into the back seat of his truck, and he drops me at whatever steakhouse that is over there, right? And I remember being there, and I remember actually being a little bit emotional and a little bit like just like, how am I gonna get home?
Yeah.
Like what's this restaurant's gonna close eventually.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then like, what's gonna happen to me then? Like, what do I do? I really like kind of walk to a hotel, or I wasn't about to ask my wife to come get me or anything. But anyway, before I left my class, I ordered my Herat combo.
Yeah.
Right? I think 2 of them.
Yep.
Right?
You did.
And so I call my wife, and I start the conversation with like, hey, Bizzle. And I call her Bizzle sometimes. I'm like, Bizzle, listen, I'm okay, and this is what's going on. Do me a favor, call Herat, let him know, like, I'm not going to be able to pick up my food, right? At this point, I had gone inside the steakhouse, and I'll have to say the people there were very kind. I had no wallet on me or anything like that. I accidentally left it in the car, and I'm like, they're like, hey, listen, we'll get you some food, like you can call us with a credit card later. So I sat down, ate some food, and my wife calls me back, and she's like, Moose said he's going to come get you. He wants to come get you. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no way. I'm like, I can't ask him to do that. It's crazy out here. No, I can't do it, And let him know, thank you, but no thanks. And then she calls me back, and she's like, he's insisting. He says, like, I have a lifted Jeep with a snorkel. Why do I have this thing if I can't help somebody out? I know you were dying to use that thing.
John, to be honest, I didn't want to be one of those posers, because if no one knew, I would have known. If I didn't take that thing out at least once to help people, whether it's rain or snow.
I mean, so I was like, all right, look, this is my one opportunity to get home, like, reluctantly swallowing my pride. Yeah. Okay. Tell him where I'm at. And this guy came, it took him an hour and a half to get to me in Flemington. Okay. And mind you, like, we've had 5 interactions at this point of 5 minutes each, maybe up until this point. This dude drives an hour and a half. It takes him around all these different ways, over tree branches and stuff, comes and picks me up. We drive all the way home. Okay. And our ride home was crazy. We had to go all these crazy ways. There's cars underwater, people driving eastbound on the westbound side of 22. Like, it was chaos out there. And brought my food with him. So when we got home, we actually were able to sit down and have some dinner.
Yeah. John like got out of the car. I said, "Oh wait, John, don't forget to take this."
Yeah.
And the food was there.
And it was still hot and everything, man. Like, so yeah, that was I guess the formal start of our relationship at that point.
Yes, without a doubt. Then we also became gym bros too.
We did become gym bros. You were definitely more of a gym bro than I am, though. This guy, I don't know how, you guys talk about this here, but like, yeah, this dude's super, super strong.
No, I just like to eat. Most gym rats, they work out to eat. So I guess I'm one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we sometimes on a similar schedule that we run into each other at the gym.
Yeah. That night was, I could tell in your wife's voice, like, she was upset.
She was scared.
Yeah.
She was scared. She does a great job of being able to keep it together, and like, but yeah, she says, like, man, when I saw the headlights hit the house, the sense of relief that she felt to them.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, if anyone would have called that night too, besides your wife, I would have gone out. Like, my employee had to stay that night here because he had a low car. Yeah, Drew.
Yeah, you were dropping me to go get somebody else.
Yeah, that night I saved like 6 people as well besides you. It was an issue. I mean, one person, they just were literally just sitting in their car waiting to die. I didn't even like notice them at first, but I made it a habit that night to like look into the cars.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I waved them. I said, "I'm coming. Get out." So the water it was like a Honda Civic. It was like really low and the water was like up here. So I opened my door and then I drove, and then they just slithered out and came and was like hanging onto the car. And then when we got onto the road, I said, "Where do you live?" And they're like, "Right there." And I'm just like, "So you were gonna just die like 20 feet from your house?" And they're like, "I just froze. I just froze and prayed, and that's what happened."
I mean, people did die that night.
Yeah.
They did, what we did as a practice, because Somerville got hit really hard.
Yes.
I mean, Somerville was underwater in some
stadium was underwater. Yeah.
People, they were doing helicopter rescues the next day from the roofs of people's houses. Like, this was like, Katrina or something. And so what we did as a practice is we advertised that we were offering free counseling sessions to anybody impacted by the flooding, or whether lost their home or lost somebody or in a scary situation. And we set up a couple of days that we just set up shop there, a few of us, and we had a lot of folks actually come through.
Some people, they think that they're all right and this and that, but then you think later on, like, are you all right? Like,
that's trauma.
I mean, you're 100% right. It's trauma. And with men thinking that all they have to do is stay quiet and work, that more than ever, it's a huge thing that I've noticed.
Oh, dude, it's you're so dialed in on that. Yeah. Like, so people, it's on the two extremes. You have people deal with emotions different ways. You have like some people that just feel so much, they're almost like emotional 3rd-degree burn victims. Like, emotions are just overwhelming and they feel it and they talk about it, and it's all about that on that extreme. And then you have on the opposite of that spectrum, people who have all these feelings, right? Mm-hmm. And instead of allowing themselves to face them, they shove them down into some deep corner of their brain or the little toe or something, right? And they're like, "Oh, nope, head down, work." Saw a lot during COVID, right? Parents trying to take care of different, family members and just be like, "Okay, got to take care of my job, take care of everybody else." But meanwhile, these emotions that they're suppressing are not going away.
Yeah.
But what happens is then they start to steer the bus from a subconscious level. right? That you're not facing. I'm okay. I'll keep my head down, do what I got to do. But all these things are boiling inside, and you don't recognize how they're kind of driving you in different directions.
Yeah. To play off that, right, John? Like, I guess it's through your parents or through older siblings. Like, these men, they learn that if they stay quiet, there's a Instagram guy that I follow called the Tired Dad. I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
And he just talks about exactly what you just said. And he's just saying that you're a father, but you're a man and you're a human being. Yeah. So you are also vulnerable as a human being, and you need to show that in a positive light towards your family, your children, because they want to always be there for you, especially when you're like really low. Yeah. So I figured like it's also a cultural thing too, unfortunately.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. Like, like my dad, for example, he worked all these odd jobs. He never complained. He just worked with his hands because he never had a college degree, nor a high school or a middle school degree. Right. And he just long hours he worked. And he never told any of us how hard it was or how gruesome it was or disrespectful the work was. So, and I learned that. But what I also learned was to explain to my wife how my day was, whether it was good or bad, because communication is key. And I figured that at least if I try this exercise every day by asking, how was your day? Would you like to know how my day was? For her to like understand that it goes both ways, and that way you have a healthier kind of relationship.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And look, that's something that I could work on. Yeah, I could work on myself, because like my wife and I are different people, right? Where, I talk to people all day long, as does she.
Yes.
And I love my clients, right? I love them to death. I go all in with my clients. So we have very, very strong rapport, really strong relationships. But I'm more of an introvert, right? Okay. So people get confused. Like, an introvert doesn't mean you can't be social. And like, people are like, yeah, right, you're an introvert. Hear me talk on podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah. Like, no, dude, it's not that. It's like an introvert, like, you could be social, but the thing is that being social kind of depletes your battery. And the way that you recharge is by being by yourself, right? Yeah. The extrovert is also very social, but the way that they recharge is by being around people. That fills them up, gets them going, right? So what happens at the end of the day, I get done, and I can have, like, any given day, 6 or 7 straight hours of conversations with folks, okay? And I don't, as a therapist, I don't take the approach of, like, blank slate. Tell me how that made you feel. My counseling sessions look like this. Yeah. It's back and forth. There's dialogue, But by the end of 7 hours, when I get done, I want to come home and I want to shut up. And I want to like dumb myself out on watching The Office or something and like just not talk, not think. Yeah. My wife, she wants to chat. She wants to talk about her day. She wants to, So having that level of awareness, we have to compromise with each other. Yeah. Like where she'll recognize some days like, okay, let's just leave them be. But then days that I don't feel like talking and I realize that she does, I have to then say, okay, well, this is what she needs right now. It's not just about what I want right now. Yeah. It's not always easy to do though. It's not. Everything in my body is just like go hide in a corner a little bit, recharge,
Well, as 16 years in marriage, I've learned to just use the keywords. And if my wife is watching or hearing this, I still listen to you, all right? I just use keywords. But, you just be like, how's your day? Oh, that sucks. I was like, yeah, I can relate.
Using counseling skills.
Yeah, basically.
You're reflecting emotion, your reflection of meaning and active listening. And
basically, in the end, my wife just wants to know that I'm there for her and I feel her pain. And she doesn't want me to solve her problem. She doesn't want me to tell her what she should do. She just wants to relate.
Oh, 100%. That's my wife too. She's very capable of figuring things out on her own.
Yeah.
But you talked about like, I'm just pulling something up here. So
Yeah. No, I had to turn off the annoying AC.
yeah, I heard it turn on. It got nice and cool for a second though. My wife, she does a lot of her our Instagram posts.
Yeah.
You know, she'll always come up with something.
Those are great posts by like nice little flares.
Yeah, she's sharp. You know, like I'm like I joke about this that I'm like, you know, I'm like the smoke and mirrors of the practice. She's like the strong like backbone that keeps everything running. You know, she just texted me actually, but so she posted this thing on our blueprint page. You talk about like the examples that we set for our kids and being able to be vulnerable in front of them. So it says here, when parents don't apologize to their kids, kids grow up to be adults who don't apologize either.
Oh my goodness.
Kids who grow up with parents who don't apologize are also more likely to always think it's their fault, struggle with self-esteem, be defensive and blame others, struggle with taking accountability for their actions, and remain in relationships with someone who doesn't apologize either. Bottom line, apologize to your kids when you mess up. Let them learn from you. Making mistakes is human. Saying I'm sorry is not weakness. Owning our behavior is important. Apologizing is a sign of healthy relationship, and everyone deserves an apology.
Yes.
And I think that's a big part. You know, you have like these parents that think that they need to present as these all-knowing creatures.
Yeah.
And don't, you know, apologize when they mess up. When the kid's not stupid, he's looking like dad just messed up.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not right. Like you're not going to own that, you know?
You know, it's a huge cultural thing in our culture too. The dads are the head of the household, right? Sure. They're like the leaders. They're like the kings, right? Yeah. And then when they mess up or they get in a car accident or if they just spill a cup of water, you know, they don't say, I'm sorry, guys, or I'm sorry to the wife. What they do is they say, someone clean that up, you know?
Right.
Or you didn't see that. And you're just, as a kid, you're just like, what? You know, it's like, both my parents, right? For example, they were working. My mom was a nurse 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. Sure. And as you know, my father, odd jobs during the day. So we were raised half the time by babysitters. So when it came to being around the children, my father and my mother would always be tired. They would just not apologize or not even really care of any specific situations. They just say, don't do that or do that. But they wouldn't really get in depth with having conversations with us. Exactly.
Right.
Like,
right.
And to this day, I'm just thinking like, well, my dad, I know he did a lot of wrong things. Same with my mother. Not crazy wrong things, but things that you could just easily say, I'm sorry, or will you forgive me? Or can we get through this together? And even to this day, I mean, now I think it's more like they're just stubborn than anything else. But I'm just thinking to myself, based off my interactions with my children and wife and everyone else, is just like, wow, I never really say sorry. I mean, so my kids, I always apologize because the one thing I don't want is them to be disappointed in me. Sure. In a way too. Sure. I just want to make sure that they're just happy and they know how to like react in specific situations, even though they're small. But what do they say? Like the first 6 years is important for the children or something like that?
And the brain is like a sponge, dude. If you look at the brain of a child, it's lit up. It's because it's soaking in as much information as it possibly can to learn. You got to catch up. It's like basically a computer we're dealing with, right? It's just downloading information that our little cameras and our little microphones are pulling into that computer, right? And then we reference that information when we're in similar situations. And that's how we learn. We have these different files, you know? You know, and I think that it also speaks to like how families handle arguments, right? It's a couple of different ways. It's either an argument happens, right? Big blowout on a Friday night, and then Saturday comes and everyone's still pissed off and they just stay that way for a while until it kind of slowly fades, right? Yeah. Or you get these other families, a huge blowout argument happens, and everyone wakes up on Saturday and pretends like nothing happened at all. And they think that that's a healthy way of managing it.
Definitely not, yeah.
No, you know, it could be both, you know, like you can ideally have that argument, but the next day when things are lighter and things are okay, that's when you want to go back and revisit that. Hey, man, I'm sorry about what I said last night.
Yeah.
Oh, mom, dad, I'm sorry. Or whoever it is. Hey, yeah, me too. And like now you're not carrying all that stuff over into the next argument. You know? And then something else you said about like, the cultural piece of like dad, the head of your household, and never apologizing. Some of that too, with just parents in general, I think is generational, right? Like where I think now you're starting to see more parents kind of start to come around, right? And learn. But we have to be careful not to overcompensate either, right? A healthy parenting approach is a combination of being loving, validating, compassionate, right? And at the same time, having consistent limits and boundaries for your children.
Yeah.
When you don't have those consistent limits and boundaries and your children start to become a little bit higher in that pyramid in the house, where sometimes you even see kids at the same level as their parents, or the worst is when a kid gets to a level that is above the parents and the parents are walking on eggshells around them.
Yeah.
No bueno. No bueno.
And I've seen that. I've seen a lot here at the restaurant. I've seen like a girl freak out that she wasn't sitting next to an outlet to charge her phone.
Oh, yeah? Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm just thinking, it's like, what are the parents doing? Or like if the kids are acting so unruly and they just let the kids do that.
Oh, I hate that.
I hate it too. And I kind of like swoop in and I try and not control the situation, but help the parents out. I'm like, hey guys, you're not going to get your food if you don't sit down. Or if you want a lollipop, you're going to need to behave.
Right.
And the parents are just looking at me, they're like, thank you. And I'm just like,
do your job, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Do your job, mom. Do your job, dad. I was in a restaurant the other day with Michelle for lunch.
yeah.
No, it was my mom. My mom and I went out for a delayed Mother's Day celebration. And so we went out to lunch to this Mediterranean place. Sitting there having a wonderful lunch, right? I had a nice chopped Greek salad with some grilled shrimp, right?
Yeah.
All that good stuff. And remind me, side note, there's my ADD kicking in. I want to ask you something about grilled shrimp.
Okay.
But so we're chilling, and then this woman comes in with her little daughter. Little, I don't know. I have a hard time gauging age for the little guys, but maybe like 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
And her friend, okay, the mom's friend.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom, like, first things first, like, she's wearing sandals, but she takes off her shoes, right?
Okay.
And then she's got her feet up on the couch, like on a pillow that they had there, like they had bench seating, you know?
Yeah.
And she's got her daughter there watching a cartoon on her phone, no headphones on, blaring, through the whole restaurant,
Yeah.
And the parent was content that, oh, okay, the kid's occupied, and now I can have my conversation. How they were having a conversation, because it was annoying me 2 tables over. Like how mom was just tuning it out. Right? Yeah. And was just content to do that. That's not good either, man. Like when and I've been out to breakfast and seen a young couple sitting at breakfast with the kid is in the car seat, on the table, right? Yeah. Like it's a little child, baby. And the dad has his phone and he's got this like trippy kind of thing going on it, and he's holding it in the baby's face as they're eating, right? Yeah. This, man, and I talk about this a lot, and I hate that I have to talk about it so much. Like, these devices are having a tremendous negative impact on children and adults as well, right? Yeah. You want your kid to get off the phone, maybe you should check how much you're on your phone, in front of your kid. But like, what's happening, man, is like, and I say this a lot, so I apologize.
That's okay.
This gives us hits of dopamine.
Yes.
The neurotransmitter that fires when you do things like have sex and gamble and do drugs, so it's this highly addictive kind of substance, almost in a way, even though it's not a substance, it's your brain doing it, right? So you get hits of dopamine from likes on your phone, you get alerts going off, scrolling through TikTok, playing video games, and all that stuff is giving you hits of dopamine. So what neuroscientists are confirming now is that, especially since COVID, because kids turn to their devices even more, is like, I get these kids now in my office that are like, John, I can't bring myself to do my work. I can't bring myself to do anything I don't feel like doing. And that's because their baseline level of dopamine in their brain is like all from that artificial stimulation. And so now if that thing they're trying to do doesn't come with that same amount of dopamine, they can't bring themselves to do it.
They turn into like little drug addicts, right?
100%. Like I've seen people, it looks like they're going through withdrawals, like children, like having their phone taken away. It's sick. It's really sick. And then it's like thinking about too, what's the content that they're consuming?
Yes.
Right. And I'll take it a step even further. Right. And this is maybe kind of a risque topic, but like when I was like a teenager, let's say, and I was introduced to porn, it would be because we like found some VHS tape in one of our dad's closets buried somewhere. And then we had to like figure out a time that no one was home, and we'd secretly pop it in, and like, it'd be, that would be it. Fast forward to today, I have people that I know that have been watching porn since they're 10. They're in their 20s, but they're watching porn, AirPods in, screen to their face consistently. Yeah. And it's now that's deeply impacting, a lot of them have fears of now having sex because of the standards that were set for them from this thing that they're watching. It's bad. It's really, really bad. So then parents then hear this and they freak out. You're like, don't freak out, right? Because they're normally it's like, okay, we need to cut it off, and we're going to set limitations on how much you can use the phone, and lock up the phone through all these different, like apps and whatnot. No, that's not the right way either. Yeah. Okay. Because what happens then is like if you're regulating for your child's not learning to regulate themselves, right? If you just take it away from them and block them from anything that's negative, right? The helicopter parents, they don't, have the opportunity to face adversity. And it's through facing adversity that we become resilient, and how we learn to deal with things not going our way. Yeah. So like what I'll tell a lot of parents is like, instead of like limiting how much screen time you can have, set healthy expectations throughout the day of what you expect. And maybe it's like, hey, I need you to get outside for an hour a day. Why don't you get some exercise, do your homework, right? Here's your few chores you got to do, a couple extracurriculars, right? If those are done, have out your phone. Yeah. Have out the screen time, right? Because the reason we're trying to reduce the screen time is because it's pulling them away from doing these things that are healthy. Yeah. So instead of limiting the screen time, here's what the expectation is of what you should do each day. Yeah. And if those are met, then okay, have at it.
Well, I hate to cut it to 10, but this is the end. Just because we're also in a restaurant, it's about to open, right? But I really had a fun time, John. I was really happy that you came out. I just want to say before we go that the whole takeaway from everything that started our relationship with picking you up in Flemington, besides you coming home safe, the thing that really touched me the most was the handwritten card you gave me. More than anything, even though you gave me a really cool knife, which I still have, it was that card that just, the human touch.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because it's funny, and I know we have to wrap up, but we now, as our practice, our new protocol is when a new client starts with us. Yes. We are now, the therapist is sending a handwritten card to their house, thanking them for the first session, and looking forward to their work together.
It's a big difference, very big difference.
Can I give a quick shout out?
Of course, please.
So guys, if you want to find out a little bit more about Blueprint Mental Health, check out our Instagram, which is at the real _Blueprint Mental Health, because we got hacked by some Russian hackers. So we had to change it. Or also like our website really speaks to who we are, which is blueprintmentalhealth.com.
Please check it out, guys. Give them a like and subscribe, and follow their page. If you or anyone that you guys know have someone that need to, I guess, explore mental health and issues and things like that at any age, basically just John and his wife are there to help you guys out. Yeah, and that's it. John, thank you again.
Appreciate you. You guys have a great one.
We'll see you guys in the next one.